So I want to play you another clip, a brief clip of this authoritarian criminal thug in the White House. This has to do with jury trials because he has said over the last several months, as he attacks nearly every part of the Constitution, he has said some very unsettling things for a president of the United States to say about our right to a jury trial in this country. Anyway, I promise you it's brief.
One thing I say, we have to have quick trials.
Yeah.
I call it quick trial because in China, they do have quick trials. You know, they don't wait 6 years and
Yeah, you
claim
start
all
off
sorts
guilty and
of
you end up
reason.
guilty in China.
Oh, it's terrible. What happens here is you go through 7, 8 years, and by the time it ends, and then they say, well, you know, he had a reason to do it because he wasn't treated right in grade school, and it's his teacher's fault, and it's the government's fault. That guy they should have a trial the following day, as far
But do
as
you know
I'm-
that they say
Now there was the criminal thug talking about having quick trials. And he has said, he's expanded on this in comments in the past. He didn't say a lot of that in this clip here, but he's talked with more specificity about his idea of what a trial should be in this country. And what he has described in the past really isn't a trial at all. It would be trials in name only. He has described situations in which he wants to see people arrested and put on trial the next day. Actually, he did mention that, I believe, in this video clip. I'm not sure if it's going to be in the clip that I'm going to play for you, because I'm kind of in the woods right now, not looking at the clip, but where he would want the person arrested and put on trial the next day. Obviously, that's not a real trial. For very obvious reasons. No time to prepare a defense, not even time to properly have a real conversation with a lawyer. They'd be show trials. That's what he has described. That's what he wants to see. That's what authoritarians do. And it's funny how he cites China as the model for what jury trials should be in the United States. Communist China. Are there any of you Trump supporters watching this video? Because you have, some of you people who still call yourselves conservatives and constitutionalists, you have been forced, well, not forced, you've done so willingly, to eat one shit sandwich after another with this guy. You have decided, for whatever reason, and the reasons are different for different people. A lot of people in the commentary space have done so for money, purely for money, have decided that you need to just defend Donald Trump, whatever he says. Do you realize now that you are defending show trials, Chinese communist show trials? You're defending that now. That's what your guy wants to see here in the United States. No defense. And you know what's funny? This guy talks about how it takes forever to get a case to trial. These things are delayed, they're dragged out for years and years. This piece of shit, when he was under criminal indictment, did everything he could to delay his trials. And yet now he would deny other people the same legal motions and other things that are used to delay. Now, most people, nearly all people, would not be able to delay their trials the way Donald Trump did. Everybody, every criminal defendant can file certain motions. They can request continuances. They don't have to be granted depending upon the reason they're being sought. There's different motions. There's different legal motions that take time. There's evidentiary motions that need to be heard pre-trial. Motions to, for example, suppress evidence. These things require witnesses, pre-trial. These are done before trial. You need to call witnesses and have evidentiary hearings. The judge needs to make a ruling and all. These things take time. There's discovery, there's investigation, all these things that have to happen to ensure that those accused of crimes by the government are afforded a fair trial and fair opportunity to defend themselves against the government's charges. Now, those kinds of things are available to all of us, and they should be. You don't want to live in a country where those things are not afforded to you. And you might be thinking, some of you MAGAs who might be watching this, oh, well, I'll never be charged with a crime. Don't be too sure. A lot of innocent people, too, are accused of crimes. A lot of people on death row have been found innocent of the crimes anyway. But those motions and procedures are available to all of us. But Donald Trump was able to make arguments that none of the rest of us could make, that delayed his case for a long time. Arguments about, I'm immune. I have presidential immunity. I get to commit crimes. And you can't do anything about it because I was president. And to a degree, after taking forever to get to the Supreme Court, they, in large measure, agreed with him. You would never get that decision from the Supreme Court in your case. Anyway, what was I going to say here? But one of the reasons why cases are delayed, criminal cases are delayed, in addition to the ones I explained, are the fact that our courts are backlogged. They're underfunded, a lot of them. They don't have the resources. They don't have the personnel needed to process all these crimes. And by the way, you don't like that some people seem to get off easy with plea bargain agreements? That is another consequence of our judicial systems being backlogged and underfunded without enough personnel. I was a prosecutor. I can tell you, first of all, most crimes, the overwhelming majority of crimes in this country are prosecuted at the state and local level. They're state crimes. There's not a whole lot of things that are crimes at the federal level, unless you're on federal property or unless you're engaged in some sort of interstate activity or something like that. There's not a whole hell of a lot of federal crimes as compared to state crimes. Most of them are state crimes, prosecuted at the state and local level. And one of the reasons why there are so many plea bargains, and 90+% of cases are disposed with plea bargains, is because they just don't have enough manpower to have trials on all these things. They got to cut deals, or the system would completely break down. Anyway, I don't hear Donald Trump talking about the need to put more resources into our state and local justice systems to be able to process these cases more quickly. Never hear anything about that. Anyway, he doesn't want fair trials anyway. He doesn't understand it. He doesn't want it. He wants those protections when it's his orange ass on the line, but he doesn't care about having them for anyone else. Remember when he was talking about deportations and said we can't have, when they were holding people, picking them up and holding them and sending them off to an El Salvador prison camp? And he would say, well, we can't have due process. First of all, they're illegal aliens, and there you don't have a right to due process, which is bullshit. And you'll hear that from MAGAs, that due process only applies to American citizens. Well, that's complete and total bullshit. The Constitution refers to people as having due process rights, not citizens, not legal residents. No, any person is entitled to due process. How would you even be able to make the determination whether they're here illegally or not if you didn't go through due process? Trump can just declare that they're not here legally and therefore strip them of their right to due process. Is that how it works? Well, that's how he wants it to work. That's how MAGA wants it to work. Hell, right? They emulate now how they do things in communist China, so not surprising. The other thing he would say is, we can't go through the courts to deport people because it would take months and months. Each one of these things would have a trial and it would go on for weeks or months. That's complete and total bullshit. He's either lying or doesn't know what he's talking about, and I think it's probably a little of both. Deportation hearings are not criminal trials. You're not entitled to a jury trial. They're actually not even before a real judge, and it's not a real court. They're administrative law hearings in the executive branch. And the person overseeing these hearings is not a real judge. They're administrative law judges, not Article 3 judicial branch judges. They work for Donald Trump. They're in the executive branch. Anyways, there's no trial. They're hearings. And the only issue in those hearings is whether or not they're here illegally or not. That's it. These are not long, protracted, drawn-out trials. They're brief hearings. Anyway, I kind of got far afield of what I began talking about here. The man is systematically destroying every aspect of our constitutional system. And near as I can tell, the American people, on balance, don't give a shit. MAGA openly cheers. Those of us who are paying attention and are actually, want to see our republic preserved, we are outraged. But we're a minority as compared to the American electorate at large. So you got MAGA who's all for it. You got us who are opposed. And then you got the tens and tens of millions who probably, far more of them than either of the other two groups, don't care, don't know, don't want to know, just what's on Netflix. As long as, whatever. As long as it doesn't feel to them like it's affecting their life, they don't care. They don't understand. They don't even know what's going on. This is how you lose it all. Through the apathetic and the intentionally oblivious. And that's what we have in this country. We have those who are full on into this. They want authoritarianism. They want to completely destroy our Constitution. Of course, they'll all pretend to be constitutionalists while they're supporting Donald Trump's destruction of the Constitution. Then there's all those untold millions of people who don't know and couldn't care less. And unless and until those people wake the hell up, I don't know. It's not looking good is all I'm saying. Anyway, that's it for now. Thanks for watching.